Today, I'm finally getting to hit a trail that's been on my bucket list since I first got my YJ about 2 years ago. It's a trail my Jeep Club has hit several times, but I've always worried that this trail might be too much, too challenging for my little stock YJ. But today, now that I have the JKU, which is still stock, I'm throwing caution to the wind. So welcome to Hurricane Creek. I'm Matt Brody, and this is Simply Must Go. Hurricane Creek is a popular trail in North Carolina right off of I-40. And when I say right off, I mean right off, as in no turn lane, just veer off the interstate and onto the trail. As you get off the interstate, there's a small area where you can go ahead and air down. Or you can take the trail down a little further where it opens up next to the water and air down with a little more scenery. That's what we chose to do.
All right, guys, we have just finished airing down at the very beginning of Hurricane Creek. Now, just to remind you, I'm in my stock Jeep JKU Rubicon, but I have Brandon, who's my good buddy, and he's got his Gladiator that's all built up. Brandon has done this trail several times, so he's acting as sort of my tour guide / get me out of jail if I get stuck. So anyway, we're gonna have a good time. We're gonna get rolling on this, and we're gonna do some camping. I've got the kids, so I've got both the boys with me today. This is their first time camping, and so it's gonna be a new experience for all of us, but we do have the trailer all loaded up. It's gonna be a cold, rainy, maybe snowy day. It's gonna be down to like 34 degrees tonight, possibility of snow overnight, definitely rain. So this trail is gonna be muddy and slick and gross, and it's gonna be a blast.
Before I take you on this trail, make sure to like and subscribe. Otherwise, there's a good chance I'm gonna end up with a flat tire.
All right, so we have officially begun Hurricane Creek, and I'll tell you what, I'm really excited about this trail. But I'm also a little nervous since we do have the stock Jeep on here. I've been told a stock Jeep can do this, but then I've seen a bunch of videos and thought, I'd rather not have a stock Jeep do this. But we're gonna try it anyway because that's what we do here.
Hurricane Creek is a trail that Jeepers, off-roaders, and overlanders come to from all over the southeast, maybe even further, because it offers beautiful scenery, technical trails, and a bunch of really fun water crossings. Because of this, it's a popular location for Jeep groups and weekend warriors like myself. The trouble with Hurricane Creek is that until you do it for yourself, it's really hard to know what it's like. So, like most people looking to hit a new trail, I scoured the internet searching for what the trail would be like. I talked to friends, I made posts in Facebook groups, but I had trouble finding a really good answer to my one big question. Can a stock Jeep handle Hurricane Creek? It's the end of February and it's been raining for several days, which means it's cold, the trail is extremely wet and muddy, and in some places, very slippery.
It's sloppy.
The excess rain also means that the water crossings are going to be higher and the water is going to be moving faster. In short, I've picked one of the more challenging scenarios to attempt this trail for the first time. I've seen countless videos with built-up rigs hitting the trail, and I've seen several of those rigs get stuck and even damaged. Stuck I can deal with, but I'm really not interested in damaging or breaking my Jeeps, so this is a pretty big gamble here. Before we get too far, it's important to note two things. One, Hurricane Creek is a one-way trail. It's generally tight and there aren't a lot of places to pull to the side and let people pass. If you do get on the trail and decide it's too much for you, you're going to be making some people angry if they have to reverse down the trail for a mile or two to let you pass. We did see one built-up rig get about a quarter of the way down the trail before deciding they needed to turn around. 2. I'm doing Hurricane Creek in my 2018 JKU Rubicon, because I thought if the trail was as hard or harder than I expected, I wasn't sure I wanted to be risking my YJ, and this turned out to be a really good call. Hurricane Creek can go a number of ways, including up to Max Patch, or like we're doing in a loop back to I-40. The beginning of the trail is a little rocky, but nothing a stock rig can't handle. You won't even really need to leave two-wheel drive, but you will get bounced around a little bit. The first real obstacle you'll face is the first of many water crossings. At this point, I shifted into 4 high just to be safe. The first crossing is going to be the deepest. The depth can vary, but today I'm guessing it's around 20 inches, based on where it hits the bumper and the body, and it was up to maybe 22 or 24 inches the next day. That's within the safe zone for a JK or a JL, but some older Jeeps have intake vents that are lower, like in my YJ, and that could be a problem. So if you're in an older stock YJ or TJ, you might want to be cautious here.
Put the right wheel towards that.
Whether you're in a stock rig or not, Hurricane Creek is a ton of fun. But it's important to remember that no matter what rig you have, the line you choose is going to be important. That goes double if you're still stock. You simply don't have the same tools and advantages a more built rig might have. That said, a stock Jeep is still crazy capable. Hurricane Creek also has several sections with steeper rock climbs and descents. This is where picking your line is important. While I was able to make it past these obstacles, I did scrape the underside of the Jeep on a few rocks. I don't have rock sliders, but the Rubicon does have extra skid plates, so once again, choose your line carefully, but a stock Jeep can handle this section. After having a blast all morning, it was getting to be lunchtime. Luckily, right after the second major water crossing is a beautiful spot to pull off and eat lunch. For those of you who are interested in camping or overlanding along the trail, this also happens to be my favorite campsite and the site that we would eventually camp at that night. But more on that later.
All right, we're making a quick stop for lunch at this beautiful campsite that's right after a river crossing, so maybe tonight this is where we'll stay. But I want to take a quick moment to tell you that today's episode is brought to you by ORV Inc. Literally brought to you by, because he's leading me down this trail. So this is Brandon with ORV Inc. He'll help you build your rig. Whatever you want, that's what they do. They help you build rigs. They do stuff like this. So go check them out. I'll leave a link down to their website in the description below, but ORV Inc., right? He did it for the Jeep parts.
Leaving this campsite is a little tricky. It seems benign enough, but there's a hidden danger here. There are some rocks to the right and a steep bank to the left. Your instincts might tell you to put your wheels on the rock because let me tell you, going left will make you feel like you're going to flip your Jeep. However, that's a mistake. The rocks are larger than you think, and going over them could easily damage your rig. I know someone in my Jeep club that went over the rocks and had her rear bumper mangled because of it. Stay left and stay slow. It's going to feel all kinds of sketchy, but it's better than damaging your Jeep.
So, it's a small world. This is my buddy Josh. Josh and I went to high school together, and it just so happened that we're meeting on the trail.
Here.
So, awesome.
Right here.
Yeah, man.
Middle of nowhere.
In the middle of nowhere. He's got a sick Lexus. I almost called it a Land Cruiser, but it's not quite. It's a Lexus. Same thing, just
better.
Different. It's better. It's more leather. It's bougie.
With my old friend following in behind us, we continued down the trail to what would be the most challenging obstacles of the day. But first, we had to stop at the Magic School Bus, which is an old bus that at some point was converted into a trailer and hauled up here in the 70s, maybe, and then left. And it's been here ever since. I mentioned before it had rained a lot recently. In addition, the trail was more rutted out and gnarly than usual. In fact, Brandon said it was the most rutted out he'd ever seen the trail. which combined with the recent rains making everything muddier and slicker, then our next obstacle was going to be harder than normal. This rutted out climb with a massive tree root system was the definition of sketchy, and the reason why picking your line is so important. The trail wants to push you to the side, towards the tree and off the cliff. The best line was to actually put your tires on the roots, which meant coming at the whole thing from an odd angle. The wet roots and the muddy ground, however, made this a challenge for each of us. Brandon's Gladiator on 35 struggled with this one, and so this is the only place on the trail I turned on my lockers. I knew climbing this was going to be hard for a stock Jeep, especially with the trailer.
I'ma fix a painting portraits, get the picture, like the paper, not the swisher. I'm your elder, call me Mr.
Eventually, we all made it up under our own power, so huge win. But it might have come at the cost of some new underwear.
What'd you think of that one?
Amazing.
Amazing? That was good. What'd you think of that one?
Amazing. Yeah, it was great. When we started slipping going this way, that was enough. I was ready to get out.
It's hard to tell from the angles, but that was wet and slippery. So because I didn't want to get into a situation, I went ahead, did 4 low, lockers, everything just to be safe. But stock Rubicon still made it through no problem. Really probably could have done it without it. But I wanted to be safe with that one, not damage anything, not slide into the tree for any reason. So anyway, probably the most puckery obstacle of the day.
I have to say, this is my favorite trail to date. It's not just beautiful, but it's challenging and fun. The boys had an absolute blast getting bounced around. There was one other obstacle with a high pucker factor. The line for this is going wide right, putting your tires on the very edge of the trail, and then making a hard left just before the large rock.
Yeah, you have to ride that lip and then hard left around that rock, and I didn't quite make it left of the rock, so that's what was hanging me up so bad, but I got through it, but that was, that edge right there, woo!
The rest of the trail is a lot of the same things. That doesn't mean it gets boring, quite the opposite. It's 2+ hours of some of the most fun you'll have in a Jeep. Like I mentioned before, this time we did the loop back to I-40, and then ran the trail again to our campsite. The campsites, by the way, are first come, first serve. So if you're going to camp, you're probably going to want to grab a campsite when you first get to it, and then make it a 2-day trip. But because of the bad weather, we didn't see anyone else camping. Although the next day we did see a couple of guys that had camped further down the trail.
So got the Jeep and the trailer kind of set up there, and we're going to get the tent set up for the kids, and hopefully the rain will hold off long enough that we don't get soaked trying to get camp set up. I'll tell you what, I am digging my Terran Designs jacket for camping. It is waterproof, it is fireproof, it is windproof, it is warm. I will do a full review on this jacket in a little bit, but this jacket is good. I like this jacket, it is worth it.
Alright, so to answer the question, can a stock Jeep handle Hurricane Creek? The answer is yes, sort of. A stock JK or JL or Gladiator should be able to handle it. Personally, I'm not sure I would feel comfortable running a stock YJ or TJ on it unless you also have rock sliders and you know your intake points are higher than some of those older TJs. I'm sure someone will say they did it, but I'm also sure you run a bigger risk of damaging your Jeep. I did use my lockers once, and while lockers are stock on the Jeep Rubicon, they're not on the Sport or the Sahara models. So take that under consideration as well. If the trail is dry, or at least not actively being rained on, I think you can easily get by without lockers. I probably could have done it without using my lockers, but again, it was a tool I had, and so I used it. Tires are also going to be a factor here. Good all-terrains or mud terrains will be helpful, but if your Jeep is running some of the stock street tires, you might have more of an issue with some of the slicker areas. If you're going to do Hurricane Creek, I highly suggest doing it with a buddy. Going in alone on your first time, especially stock, is not a good idea. There are just too many places that things could go wrong, and make sure at least one of you has proper recovery gear. I hope you enjoyed taking the trail with us today. If you did, please give the video a thumbs up, it really helps. Also, please subscribe to the channel for more great videos like this, and make sure to ring that little bell of freedom so you get notified of new videos. If you're interested in trails or overlanding in South Carolina, I have a great series on the South Carolina Adventure Route, which is also known as the SCAR, and you can click on that playlist here. Until next time, God bless, and we'll see you in the next video.